Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Dave from the Adobe Character Animator team, and welcome to another installment of Character Chat. I'm joined, as always, and I can say that this time because it's been two episodes, by my coworker Dan Ramirez. What's up, Dan?
Going on two in a row.
There
Hi,
we go.
Dave.
And you are back in the office, am I right, in Seattle?
I am. It's happening now most of the time. Instead of being in my dungeon basement, I'm now talking to my friendly coworkers in real life, eating lunch with them. It's been nice. We have a room with a green screen, so I sat in it.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I need to get back. I haven't been going to the San Jose office, is where I usually go, and yeah, I need to get back there because I miss the people. I miss the lunch. I miss the kids not jumping in every 5 seconds to ask about math homework. So that's good. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining today. We're going to go into a bunch of stuff. First off, we're going to do a little bit about the leader-follower behavior. This is something that we launched recently a while back. You also might know it as auto swap, which is the thing where, as a character moves their hands, it kind of changes to different artwork. But the leader-follower behavior is actually much more than that. And so Dan's got some examples. He's going to show you how that works and some tips of how you can use it to do some really interesting things with your characters that you couldn't do before. And then, as always, we'll answer your questions live. So if you have any questions, things you're interested in, or problems you're running into, or questions as you see us show some of this stuff like leader follower and other stuff like that, let us know and we'll answer it as best we can. Oh my gosh, we got a super chat message. I've never seen that before. Kelly Johnson.
Ooh.
Kelly Johnson, wow, donated $5 and said, "Is there a way to bring character created in Blender into Character Animator?" So not exactly. We have seen people bring 3D models. There's ways, basically, if you can put it into a fade and then they export out individual pieces and frames. So that might be like just the eyes or just the body or just the head position. And then they will bring those exported frames into Photoshop and rig it in such a way that it will, create a character animator, character. And so you kind of get this fake 2.5D-ish look if you do it right. And we have some examples on our examples pages of some 3D characters that both Digital Puppets and others have made. So that right now is the best way to do it. We don't accept like 3D files or anything like that are created by Blender or otherwise, at least not yet. But yeah, that's probably your best bet to do. So I would say check out those examples of those 3D characters, and that's probably the best way to get started. And you can get a really convincing way. Some people have even done like the animations where they do a cycle layers animation where they do like, an arm raised in 3D with the shadows and everything. And it looks really nice. There was remember that thing, Dan, Monster Talk, I think it was called? It was these two monsters at a bar
Yes.
that were talking. That's one of the best examples I've seen of it. So that might be worth checking out. But yeah, great question. And yeah, go ahead.
Later on, in recognition of the what do they call it? Super chat. That's
Super
really
chat.
awesome. I will show. So Emily Watts, an artist, has designed 3 template puppets for us using Blender, and I can kind of show you those. They did go through Photoshop, but it'll give you an idea of what you get from the 3D and then what comes from Photoshop.
Cool. Cool. Sean is saying, hoping to see more puppets for starter mode too. Yeah, we're adding a ton of puppets. Actually, the starter mode website is getting more and more puppets because I have to update the website every day. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Oh, Kelly is just making it rain with the super chat now. Okay. It says, where do I go to find out how to do that? For the 3D stuff. You know what? When I publish this video after it's done, I'll put in the show notes in the video description below a link to places where we've talked about this in the past and examples. So just check out the description maybe an hour or so after the broadcast, and I'll put it there, and hopefully that'll answer your question. But yeah, I'll link to like Monster Chat and other things like that so you can or Monster Talk so you can check that out. Cool. So let's go ahead and get into it. Dan, do you want to share your screen? I'm going to do a solo webcam here, so I hide Dan for a second. So the magic is he's going to share a screen, and it's going to look all seamless and great, like I actually know what I'm doing with OBS. When in fact I was, going crazy 10 minutes before the show to make sure all this worked. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, you're doing great, Dave.
Oh, thanks, Dan. You too. You too. Always a pleasure.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay, so it looks like Dan is starting to share a screen. I'm going to switch to this. There we go. Perfect. Looks flawless. All right, so Dan, it looks like we got a talking polygonal dog over here.
Yes, we do. So this is Frenchie. This puppet came from Blender and it went through Photoshop, and now it's in Character Animator. So you can see that, Emily was able to generate different copies of the head by, exporting those from Blender, putting them in Photoshop. And she's even got some cool, this walk cycle has, you'll notice the foreground moves at a different speed from the background. It's kind of a hacky project in that the walk behavior is actually applied to the foreground and the background, and they're all going different speeds. So when you press the left and right key, it does that. That's Frenchie, and you can see that her work, let's see, here's Foxy. Her work that she did for one puppet in Blender, it allowed her to like make some modifications, and then the same export steps she did for the dog is going to work for this fox. It's essentially the identical scene, but this one, this animal is very smart. You can tell because it's wearing glasses. And same thing, we got Foxy, and then finally I can show Bunny, which I won't even say what Bunny is. It's going to be a giant surprise, I think.
It's a platypus.
Just kidding. It's a bunny. But you can see that she kind of did the, low poly rigging in Blender, once. And then, she had to modify them, but a lot of her work. But I can at least show you a tiny bit of what's actually in these things.
And
it looks like I opened up.
Yeah, and Kelly is also saying that, like, he's saying that, that puppet looks like a 3D model. And yeah, it's because it is. It was a Blender model, and then Emily brought it in piece by piece. So, rendered each head position, the mouth position, the jaw moving, all of that stuff together.
So you can see that in Photoshop, she had to export the front of the face. And this since it has the head turners, she just exported, I don't know if she used camera or, actually rotated the character. But the cool thing is, presumably she was able to export, a layered document. And she actually, this is a very advanced file, but she's even triggering like in-betweens. But you can see for the left profile that there's the eye. It's all rigged. So there is a decent amount of work done here in Photoshop, but it's really like a pretty, the performance is incredible, right? Like compared to a 3D app. So that's kind of an example of, a 3D look in Character Animator, even though these are just 2D assets. But, this is a live performance motion capture of what looks like a 3D object.
Yeah, and these characters, I believe they're on our pro examples page, so you can check them out. We wanted to include them in the app, but they're actually pretty big files, so we decided not to do it because the file size would have just been too big. But you can download them and check them out. And actually, there's a lot of awesome stuff behind the scenes for them. So like the rotating head is actually a shared puppet through each of the views, so that helps save on some space and some other stuff. So yeah, that's a really good one to dig into in rig mode and check it out. Before Dan moves into the next, Kelly is saying again, does Character Animator have auto lip sync? Yeah, that's one of our best features, is definitely the automatic lip sync. Is you just talk and your character is going to talk live with you, or you could bring in an audio file and or a transcript. Now we even have the transcript based lip sync as well, and that is going to allow you to get the even more precise lip sync. So professional productions like Tuning Out the News and others that are doing that have that as an option to make sure their lip sync as good as possible. But yeah, thanks for all the questions and super chat. That's all. I didn't even know what super chat really was. I said I guess I'll turn this on. I don't know what I'm doing, and wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so without that more delay, Dan, let's talk about leader
so
follower.
I'll just very quickly show how to get to that file.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I'm here. There we go. So on the main startup page where you pick all of the templates, if you just click see more, that's going to go to a website. We've got starter mode puppets here. We've got the pro puppets, which the Foxy, Frenchie, and Bunny are. And then I love Puppet Maker. Like I can't get enough of it. And then it looks like we also have more resources down here. But to find the Foxy and Frenchie, those are in the pro puppets. Check out me. Look, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if my camera's even showing, but I've got that blue creature right behind me in this green screen room. But if I scroll down here, you can see the Brooklyn Buddies is where I found those files.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, you're only sharing your character animator screen, but that's okay. We understand what's happening. The website. Yeah, got it. All
Okay,
right.
yeah. So I wanted to just touch on a couple maybe more advanced uses of leader follower. What I should have done that I didn't do was load up our most are the ones that Dave actually did. So I don't know if you wanted to do that later, Dave, or I could do it if you're sharing your screen at some point. But at least our start menu puppets, we do have one puppet here. It's Wampler that uses leader follower. And one thing I want to challenge you guys in the chat is, animation is hard, rigging is hard, and there's a lot of things you want to do that the software either makes difficult or it's actually impossible. Short of like drawing every frame. So if you come up with things you're trying to do and struggling, like give us a list, and it's very possible that leader follower solves some of those issues. I know for me, like there's cases where I want the hands to go in front of the head and behind the head, and that was really, really hard or impossible to do with like a mouse-based animation, and we can now do that with leader follower. But I'm going to turn on the body tracker right here and calibrate this camera. Let's see, still sitting. Here we're using auto swap and leader follower, and you'll notice this is actually pretty close to my hairstyle is a little different, but the muscles are totally accurate. But you'll notice that the arm artwork is changing based on the positions of my hands. And if you're not familiar with this behavior, I can just jump in here into this puppet, and you can see that if I just choose, I'm going to choose the right arm because that's the one that's up. And let me turn these down. And you can see if I turn on these eyeballs that we have all sorts of different arms. And the very first one, it's hard to see here. I'm not sure how well this is going across on the stream, but the wrist on the first arm is draggable, and it's tagged leader. And we also have a leader follower behavior applied at the top of the puppet. And then every single other arm, in which this puppet has 15, that's like pretty extreme, but it shows that you can use like a lot of different artwork. Every single one on the wrist, there's a follower handle. And that means that all of those, even if only one is being shown at a time, all of those hands are simultaneously moving. And in fact, this is where I'm going off script, and I'm going to disable auto swap. And no, I think we still have all the arms are in a swap set. What I was hoping would be that you'd see like the Hydra of like 16 different arms moving simultaneously, which would be the case if, let me delete this again. I'm really off script here. There we go.
There it is.
So this is actually what's happening in the back end. Like our swap sets are why you only see one at a time. So this is what leader follower is doing. It's just joining all of those hands. And then that auto swap checkbox on this trigger group will show the layer that has been warped the least, which is a really neat thing. Like if you find that you get joints that look weird around the shoulders and elbows, like let's say you have an arm and you kind of want to crease there. Well, you could have just 2 layers for the arm and one has the crease. And when the arm's bent like that, you can trigger that artwork. But leader follower can be used for all sorts of other things. What? No, don't come in here. I'm live streaming. I don't think anyone uses this room, and someone finally decided to come in. Okay, I'm going to go to. This is kind of a. So this character was wearing shorts, and I have seen in the past one thing that's pretty annoying with dresses and aprons and skirts and that type of thing is. The way our layer order works, if you have a character walking or doing leg motions, that their legs will end up showing up on the outside. So if I make this character walk, I'm going to zoom in here. I'll refresh the scene. One option is just to make the skirt bigger, right? But then now she's wearing a big boxy skirt, and that might not be what you want for your character. And let me zoom out here. And with leader follower, what I did here, I'm going to show you that rigging here on her skirt. Let me turn off the meshes and close this little rig check area. You guys don't need to see the console. Here we go. Here on the actual skirt, I have these follower layers, and you can see that we've got these handles. The way leader follower works in this, I don't have to cover necessarily in this live stream, but the handle names have to be the same. So that's why I have those left leg point, right leg point. But these are the follower layers, and on her body, I think it's her body. No, it's her legs, because I want her legs to drive the skirt. So the leader handles are on the legs. So I just copied and pasted those handles from one location to the other, and that allows you to make two different pieces of artwork move together. So in this case, if I turn leader follower on, now if I make her walk, and this is pretty subtle, right? Like these are the little details that take your animations to a next step. Now her skirt's distorting with her legs, and you could mix this with that auto swap where, you know, if during a certain part of the walk cycle you want, say, a pleat or a crease in the skirt to show up, you could actually have that drawn when the skirt is skin thin. So I think leader follower and auto swap are a really powerful but really untapped potential area in this program.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to see. And that's been a question people have had before about, like, you know, cloth dynamics and things like that. And I think with leader follower, you just have a lot more freedom and flexibility. A lot of times. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, guys. We ran into some issues there with dropped connection. I think my internet went down. Not sure. Thanks, Xfinity, for that. But yeah, let me try to get Dan back on the call. All right, Dan, I got you back, I think.
Here we go.
All right, we're doing it live. Let's see. So, what happened there? Okay. And now, of course, my screen share is totally messed up, but that's okay. Let's figure this out live. Okay. Go ahead, Dan. Right now, it's looking weird, but I'll figure it out. Go for it.
Am I still sharing my screen?
Yeah, you're sharing your screen. It just looks a little weird because I don't have it cropped. It's cropped a little bit differently, but hold on. Maybe I can get that to... Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay.
Well, another thing I can do is kind of maximize the scene panel when I'm talking, and that might just make it a little more content forward. And also, I don't have to show like little tiny hot text.
Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want. Hey, I mean, we just lost internet for a few minutes, so whatever.
There we go. So this is a puppet. This is a puppet maker puppet that I believe is publicly released. Brenya the Knight, I think, is the name. But this is really fun to use, and was, I think, the first time a content, somebody that supplied us with our templates has started experimenting with leader follower for, in this case, I've got the body tracking on. But do you see how the character's left shoulder pad is moving and rotating with my arm, and the right one is not? I don't remember why that's the case. I think I turned off leader follower. There's multiple behaviors, but in any sense, she's actually using leader follower for both of those things. So in this case, there's a leader handle in the hand and a follower on the prop, and then it's the same thing where sometimes you might want like dragon scales or knight armor. You might want rigid objects on top of your character that are being controlled by the bendy thing underneath. When I say bendy thing, we're talking about like a mesh. So like if you, bend your character this way, like their body tends to bend. A lot of, paper doll cutouts are very rigid with everything. And the way Character Animator works is a lot of things like warp and move. So I'm going to actually turn leader follower back on. And then now you can see that the shield is, and the cool thing is, so I'm actually going to check a box for rotation. Right now, the shield is following the position of my hand, but it's not following the rotation of my hand. It's actually working just fine. Is that she did this specifically because leader follower can help with these layer order issues. In fact, if I had time right now, I would love to get this sword, because if I do that, you see the sword goes behind the head. You can use leader follower to duplicate the sword, have two copies, and make one follow the other, and then you can trigger them at will. So it's like sword in front of the head, sword behind the head. Those are things that were really, really, really hard to do previously that you can now do. One more example I'm going to show. This I could do something with a necklace, but it's a little more fun to, if anybody remembers preview for Gene, the power was in him the whole time. Actually, I think the power was in a little robot. Anyway, nobody's watched that. But it was really hard rigging up this keytar strap because layers only had one way to attach. And obviously in this picture, excuse me, there's two natural attachment points. And I unfortunately, I wish I had time to hide the one and back, which I could also do with leader follower. I didn't get to that, but you can see that this character can now move, and those straps are attached at those two attachment points. Previously, there's only one attachment point. So if the warping of that attachment point gets a little too obvious, those 2 points that you want to be totally stuck to the character will start coming off. So if you had necklaces that you want to attach, you could have just kind of a U shape and use leader follower for those two attachment points.
Yeah.
But Dave, those are all the prepared examples I have. Ideally not while sharing screen, but I could download your leader follower pack and go through some of those, because I think you had the auto swap dragon's really great. Yeah. We're in the informal section of the presentation now.
That's okay. Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing. We'll get back to going up to up. But that's awesome. So that's it's amazing to see like all the different examples like you're showing, like keytar straps, I should say, or shield or whatever. It's just, it feels like there's a question I get a lot is like, how do I connect this prop to my character? Whether that's like they're holding a water bottle or they're a sword or something like that. And it seems like leader follower might be a really good way to do this in the future. Is that right?
Yes, and in fact, there's a parameter in the leader follower behavior that allows you to say when it happens. And it's a little like, you kind of got to think about it. But if you wanted, you've got a sweatshirt string and you want something to follow that sweatshirt string and you have physics applied, you probably want leader follower to happen after physics. That's one of the options. Yeah. If you don't, then it will follow where the sweatshirt string was before it started dangling. But on that note, yes, off is actually one of the choices. So if you're familiar with our replay and trigger system, you can actually just put off into a trigger so that you can, if you've got a following object, the coffee cup, and then the character's hand is on the table, if you then trigger off, leader follower is then disabled and the object gets placed into the scene where you hit the trigger. So it's kind of a really great way for moving things from, one place to another. In the past, we may have had to have two coffee cups, one on the table, one in the hand, and you kind of trigger them back and forth. So it gives you a little more flexibility, in location of where you set things down and that type of thing. Yeah. And again, I'm going to say that, like, I feel this is very untapped. Like, the community hasn't had access to it for very long at all.
Yeah.
And I know that there's people far more creative than I am that are going to start doing some really incredible stuff with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting to see. And I think there's a few behaviors like that. Layer picker is another that are kind of these underutilized behaviors that I think when some expert level people get a hold of it, they can do some really interesting things with it. Kelly is asking again: is all animation manual or is there auto rig presets? So the animation is there. Well, there's a few different options to this, right? So you do have the ability to manually record any parts you want. So say you want to do the eyes, the mouth, the head movements, all that stuff. But we do have some things like walk behaviors and other things that allow your character to move. In fact, the new beta feature, Motion Library, we talked about in the last stream, allows your character to dance, fight, do different gestures, all sorts of different things there. So yeah, there's a lot of different possibilities in terms of what you can do with that. Yeah, by the way, how's the connection now, everyone? Is it still glitching out? Again, I'm going off my phone internet right now because I don't think my regular internet's back. But can you at least hear what we're saying, or is it still glitchy? We'll see what people say. Dan, you were about to say something. Go for it.
I'll say for a phone, it's pretty incredible. Yeah, it occasionally stutters, but I'm at least able to follow it
Okay.
pretty well on my side. So hopefully everyone else can. Well, just one thing on the note of auto rigging is that a lot has changed in Character Animator over the last, say, 2 years. Ever since we implemented, I think LimIK was when ARMIK turned into LimIK. We used to like stick characters' feet into the ground using fixed pins, and that of course was great for getting the character to stand. But if you wanted them to tap their foot, you'd do it and they'd have silly putty feet and it didn't look right. And when LimIK was implemented, you can now have draggable feet and have the character stand. And then along came the body behavior that's controlling things, and then motion library, which are these prefigured animations. All that is to say, like, it's getting more clear that there's a structure that works pretty well with characters. And I'm actually working right now on kind of defining that. And part of that I'm hoping is that if you put your work into Photoshop and follow this template, that a lot of the auto rigging will happen for you. It's not going to be a magical auto rig script, but I'm hoping, because I agree that rigging can be a pretty tedious process. And at the very least, we can get you some really strong guidelines. And, to date, it's kind of been a little more, if you want a character to do this, rig it like this. If you want a character to do this, rig it like this. And I feel like recently we've kind of made it a little closer to finding a structure that works for a wider variety of animations.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so let's see. What else are people asking about here? Lots of drop, but it's tolerable. Okay, we'll take it. I'll have to check. Hopefully my internet comes back at some point. It's better. Yeah, great timing. Let's see. Sounds like they can hear the.
That's worse than tolerable.
Yeah, we'll take it. Let's see. Yeah, Dan, do you want to download on your end? Because I tried to do it and my connection's so terrible.
Oh, yeah.
That auto swap example to run through that.
In fact, I have some auto swap examples that I'm not sure we. I don't know. Have you shown auto swap in one of your streams yet?
Not in the stream. No, I showed it in a like a preview video for beta, but that was it. And now that when it came out, I didn't do an official launch video for it. So some people might not even know that it's out yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to show a couple auto swap examples. And in fact, it's pretty funny because you had made the pick the coffee cup up and
right
with the leader follower behavior.
Right,
and,
right. That's right. All right. Let's go into this mode.
I call this guy Coffee Cup Joe.
That's him.
Isn't Joe slang for coffee?
I think it is.
But yeah, so Dave, feel free to, you made these, you know more about them than I do. But in this case, the character's got this hand and he's got a trigger for leader follower. I'm not sure how it's rigged, but I do know that if I press the 1 key, the leader follower becomes, he's drinking the coffee, pouring it down his shirt. As we had mentioned earlier, if he's a little more measured, if you uncheck rotation. So it's just kind of cool that you have that control. But in any case, pours it down the shirt, sets it back down. So that's the coffee cup example. This one I actually made, so I can speak to it. The artwork, I mean, the cool part of the artwork is the robot. I made the dumb little unicycle in Illustrator, but what I wanted to do was see if I could get a character riding a bike. So this was a very short example. I think someone out here could make like a really, really cool example. But in this case, I have the feet following the bike pedals. Oh, this is, yeah, I don't know why I didn't show this earlier. And if I rotate the actual unicycle, the feet are going to move along with it. And because of limb IK, the knees are going to bend the correct direction, the legs are going to bend. So this is really incredible because, you then can tie the rotation. Woo! You'd have to have the character move too. But you can have a character move across the screen. And that type of animation would be extraordinarily tedious to do. So I think that's like a really, really cool thing. So get your bike puppets on. I'm ready to see a version better than that one.
Mike Ward Draws is asking, what happens if the cup is far away when you press the follow trigger? Does it appear on the leader or follow with the gap? I don't remember what happens. What happens there?
Woo!
All right.
It hyper jumps.
Magic warp.
Yes. So there's no strength parameter on leader follower. It's like a full attachment. So it's going to go to, it's going to find its leader handle wherever that may be.
Cool. Makes sense.
And then, yeah, so this is an auto swap example where he's got a snake dragon that looks really awesome. And if I'm going to show the mesh here, when the mesh gets stretched out to a certain point, you can see the artwork actually changes pretty subtly. But what's really cool is that an actual cycle layers animation is now happening. So the snake dragon breathes fire. And if I come into here, you can see how that works. He's got multiple copies of the snake.
Yeah, basically all I did was in Photoshop, I had the snake and I basically used puppet warp on it to create a bunch of different positions, and I would try it and then see, oh, he looks really weird in this particular position, and then I would add new positions until I feel like I had filled in all the gaps for the character. But yeah, it's a great way to like have your character feel a little bit more light, like kind of give it more of a frame by frame sense of what it's going to look like at a certain thing. It can be a whole character like this, or just an arm, like we were showing earlier. You got a lot of options here.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this example, I think especially, is that, it's almost like a video game programming. You can have something happen when it hits a certain layer. And it doesn't have to be the last layer. It could be one of these middle layers. But here on the snake, when it's fully outstretched, when you show that layer, also going to trigger this because there's a cycle layers behavior applied that has the start time as when triggered. And when triggered means when shown in this case. So when you show the dragon stretched out, also play this cycle. So I think there's like really, really cool things you could do. I mean, honestly, you could do it with like the bike example where, I don't know, people still put baseball cards in their spoke tires, but
it's Pokemon cards now.
Yeah, there we go. And I had mentioned the layer order. I think you had done that with the samurai puppet, so I'm glad we did.
Right.
To grab this. Yeah, so this here, I'm going to turn off the mesh showing. But the right arm has a handle sword, and it's the leader, and it's dragging the sword. But if oh, there it is. It's going behind the head. You could choose which, like, for this purpose, he wants the sword behind the head. But this is just cool because regardless of where the sword is in the artwork, it can actually show up either in front of the head or behind the head. But the important thing here is that both hands are holding the sword, which if you've used Character Animator in the past, it's pretty easy to get that sword in the right hand moving back, but having that left hand follow can be really hard. You can manually animate that, but then you're basically going frame by frame and making sure that it's matching. And if you don't go frame by frame, you'll find slipping between the hands. So that's the main thing, is that we've got a sandwich here. We've got the arm behind the body, the sword in the middle of the arms, and the arm in front of the body, and they're all being controlled simultaneously with just one draggable handle.
Yeah, and I think if you refresh the scene and then press, what is it, one? I think they'll do a slice animation. Hiya!
Oh yeah,
So that's a fun one.
nice.
I think my internet is back, so I'm gonna try to switch back to it. Let's see if this works. Hopefully, there's no hiccups. So, Little Mouse, I was trying to answer your question as we were getting cut off, but basically, let me try to get this in before I get cut off again. Basically, yeah, what I would do is set up a bunch of replays and say, here's my default position with my character with the sword in the sheath. Then here's a replay of me taking it out. And then from there, I can do a swipe, I can do a block, I can do all these different things and then put it back. Creating a character like that, I think, is probably the most versatile way, as opposed to trying to do it with draggers live or do it with full body motion tracking or something like that. Replays are probably your best bet there. But yes, you can do that. Dana Berman is saying, well, hello there, in his best Obi-Wan
Yeah.
impression.
Call out Dana showing up.
Yeah.
Hey, Dana.
Hey, Dana. Good to see you. Dana's made a lot of things that have been in our community spotlights, the most recent being that Star Trek parody that he did. And then that Lower Decks show came out after Dana did that. So, I don't know. Dana, you might want to look into that. Yeah, you deserve some sort of royalties from that. Little Mouse says, the internet loves you. LOL. Aw, thanks. We'll try. Let's see. Okay, True Time is saying, will CH in the future have controls over fingers and picking up objects, magnetizing, or assigning them in some way, changing the form of fingers when they pick them up, bringing objects into character image or same similar? So that's a really interesting thing. As you've seen with body tracking, we can track a lot, with the full body. It's not too hard to imagine in the future the technology getting good enough that you could track individual fingers. I think that's a possibility, but I also think that with fingers and kind of the deformation and the things you might want, most likely what you would want is not just a hand like this to deform and do like this, because then your artwork is going to like peel over top of each other and look weird. But you might have different hand positions. For example, say, this is my closed fist, this is my open hand, this is my point. And then could you potentially have a hand be able to switch between those automatically? I think that would probably work better and look better, at least, for the type of stuff that's actually happening. That would be my guess of how to do it, but there's nothing I can announce today. No one in a secret lab working on that, as far as I know, in Adobe. Maybe, I don't know. There's rooms in Adobe. I mean, apparently this green screen room is somewhere in Seattle that I didn't know about. Yeah. So, yeah, you never know. The last time I was in Seattle, we had I found the swag closet. That had all the character animator t-shirts and stuff like that, and we figured out a way to get it inside to that, and that was fun. So secret rooms all over the place at Adobe. It's great. Let's see, any other questions you've seen, Dan, that are popping out?
Let's see. I have seen a couple questions about the Elgato Stream Deck. And we don't have any like direct integration planned with the Stream Deck, but if you need less than 32 individual triggers, then just assigning keyboard shortcuts using the Stream Deck, you got your custom icons, everything works great. If you need like 2048 different triggers, I think it's Stream Deck, not Steam Deck, right?
Yeah, Steam Deck.
I want to be like,
yeah.
I want to be like the grandma that says Nintendo. But in any case, I think they have a MIDI plugin that would allow you 16 different channels and 128 different triggers. So that's far. Like if you do that, I don't know how much money I'll give you. I don't have that much money, but I'll give you money if you make a puppet with over 2,000 triggers.
Yeah, that'd be impressive. I remember when we did the Simpsons live thing, they were really pushing the boundaries, and they used was it X keys, if I remember correctly, to do for these buttons that they could press. But that was a hilarious time because they kept on adding more and more stuff. I think Dan had a freaking heart attack from that because they just kept adding more things. The Photoshop file was huge. I mean, just gigs and gigs of like thousands of layers. It was insane, and somehow it worked. So yeah.
Yeah, you could open that Photoshop file and then you run into some weird bug and you're like searching and then you're like, oh, I have no hard drive space. And it's like, what? I've got like, it's 0. And then somehow you reboot the machine, you have like 80 gigs free. And you're like, what's happening? It was all Photoshop's like temp storage.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That file was huge.
That was crazy. True Time is also asking, what are the objects of pick whipping object? What are the chances of pick whipping objects in CH? You really like that pick whip tool, don't you? Yeah, I mean, pick whipping's fun. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think anything's possible in the future. So I'm imagining you'd want to do something like we just showed with Leader Follower, but instead say, hey, I want this sword, pick whip it to the hand, and then it will always move around with the hand. I like that idea. That's an interesting idea. Can't, maybe we can look into that in the future. Yeah.
I'd love it for handle assignments and behaviors where you're like, I would like this behavior to use this handle. And then it's just like, pick whip to the rescue. But it turns out just me saying that doesn't make it happen. I don't have that clout.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But we are very community driven. We've always said this before, is that it's not like we are just deciding what our next steps are. We always listen to all those YouTube comments you all put out, all the feedback you give us in the forums. We listen to that and we combined it all and feature requests and things like that. And when we go into our planning meetings, which we have another one coming up soon, pretty soon here, we look at your exact comments. Like we are literally saying, hey, Dana Berman said this and he's struggling with this. Is there a way we can make that better? So, I think that's honestly the best way to do things, is never design in a vacuum. Always kind of hear what the community is saying and listen to them, be responsive. And honestly, we're never going to be able to get everything right? There's Dan and I could list hundreds of things that we wish we could do in Character Animator, but there's limited resource, limited time, and we do have to prioritize things. And that's kind of how it goes. So we try to do things that get the most bang for the buck. So something like Motion Library, for example, I think is going to be huge. Allows some great movement that people haven't been able to do before. It could be really time consuming ahead of time. So yeah.
I did see one comment on the chat about smooth facial movement.
Okay.
And I think that's a really great example of, like, we've definitely heard it from customers. And I know that it's one of Dave Werner's top requests, and it's been really close to that priority line a lot. And like, we have to make really difficult choices. And it's, let's say Motion Library, because we just shipped that. It's not Motion Library versus smooth facial movement, because the people that would be doing one aren't necessarily going to be doing the other. So it's a very, deep web of different priorities, but that one in particular, like, both Dave and I love it, and we totally recognize the level of expressiveness it can add to puppets, and I'm hopeful we can get it. It's just we really want to do it in a really cool way, and that means, like, it's a big investment versus we've talked about we could add like another parallax behavior that does something kind of similar to the face behavior, and it would be a little hacky, but it would be better than the hackiness we're doing right now. So that's the other thing too. It's like, oh, do you do a stopgap solution? Do you try and do something like comprehensive and really cool? And I think we've, settled on, like, we wanted to do it in a really nice way, but I'd love it. I want to do that and not have to redraw the artwork.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to, our goal has always been make animation as accessible to a wider audience as possible. And so that's kind of the lens that we look at everything in and see, like, these things that are technically have traditionally been really hard to do, how can we make them easy and still look good and still let, grandma down the block. I was trying to think of someone who's not skilled in Character Animator, but maybe grandma's really good at Character Animator. I don't know. So let's just say random dude over here who doesn't know anything about Character Animator is able to pick things up pretty quickly and have those stories that have always been stuck inside his or her head out there, get them out there into the world. Because animation is such an awesome platform. I mean, you can tell just amazing stories that you could try to do, like, real life, filming and try to add special effects. But for, like, a lot of stuff I do, it's robots talking. What would I be doing for that? Like, how else could I do that? I'm going to build the robots? I don't think so. I don't know what I'm doing with that. So, hopefully more stuff in the future like that.
By the way, I am sharing the camera, right?
Yeah. You're fine.
Okay. Just there we go. So that is actually a robot. Maybe in the meantime, while you talk, I can set it up and show it actually working. But that is so that's Meeb the puppet. If you go into the See More Puppets, it's a practical puppet that I had photographed in this room. But Keith Lovick built built it. He's an actual puppet maker that makes practical puppets. And he put in like servos and stuff. So it's I just have a robot in the room, and I wanted to brag is the short end of it. But like the eyes closed, the mouth opens and closes with robot stuff.
Yeah, that is a really awesome one. And I love that anything we see like physical puppets, whether it's like a Muppet type thing like that or the claymation stuff that David Taub's done that we've shown in the past, just awesome stuff. RD Entertainment, someday can grandma make an anime with character animator? I'm excited to see this. Yeah, me too. Let's see. Mike was saying something. Someone was saying first. Side note: thanks for being so active in your video comment section, Dave. Yeah, no problem. I like interacting with the community, and that's the only way I understand what people like and don't like about the program or where they're struggling. So I feel like that's part of my job, honestly. Mike Ward Draw says, I've been making puppets for short cartoons that I only use for maybe 5 minutes. So now I generate a character in the creator and change the graphics. Which character type do you recommend to use? So I think he's talking about maybe Puppet Maker, generating a character and changing the graphics. So yeah, Puppet Maker is definitely your best bet for quick changes like that, where you change from one character to the next. But the one, let's see, if you record something with the one puppet, could you copy and paste those? Well, you wouldn't want to copy and paste the recordings because you're already done a recording. You said this 5-minute video, so then you would just want to start with a new puppet. Yeah, I mean, you could just go back to the style. It will save the last one you did, so you can use that as a starting point as long as you don't press the reset button, and then you can use that to move around. Oh, he's saying clarification. Some puppets are way more complex than others. I just need super simple, really. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that's just a trial and error process. Like, check them out, see what the puppets look like and how they feel, and if they are too complex, there's actually a little, if you know your way around character animator, you could do some Photoshop surgery where you're like, okay, I don't need these extra replays for this character or triggers or whatever. You can feel free to ignore that stuff or delete it or whatever if you want to just focus on the basics. Hopefully we made this as simple as possible, but if you're using starter mode, for example, those are the most simple possible characters. A lot of those have actually been made using Puppet Maker and then bring them into starter mode, add all the triggers and the buttons and stuff like that to really, really simplify them. So I think you can't get any simpler, at least right now, than the starter mode puppets. But of course, Puppet Maker is not part of starter mode yet, so you can't do any custom character stuff right now. But ideally, that's something that would change in the future. I forgot about starter mode. Yeah, if you're stuck in pro mode, yeah, that you can kind of be tunnel vision, and that can happen. All right, so let's finish up here. We only have a few more minutes, and I've got a meeting at 11. I don't know if you do, Dan, but Fabio is asking the question we get asked every single time. So when are we getting 4-legged animal puppets? Yeah, so currently the walk animation is only for bipedal puppets with 2 legs. And same with the motion library is based off of those types of characters as well. In the intro to rigging video I did, there is an example of a very hacky version of a 4-legged character. And that right now is the best way to get started. So if you search for the intro to rigging video, and at the last 10 minutes or so, there's an example there, including the downloadable puppet that you can get that shows the 4-legged character. Basically, you have to add 2 walk behaviors, and one for the front legs and one for the back legs. And then you just have to time everything so the legs don't go off and run in a different direction away from the puppet. It's pretty hacky, and we've heard this a lot. Not just for that, but it's like, I want to make a bird with wings or a snake that slithers across the ground. Are there going to be animations for these non-humanoid type characters in the future? And I think that's a really valid request, and I hope we have more to offer in the future. But right now, hacky solutions like that are probably your best bet. Okay, let's take one more question. First, Fecolium is saying, I got highest grade for my promoter, lead teacher of the bachelor's, from my character animator puppet. Congratulations. Good job, character animator, giving good grades and performances throughout the world. I love it. All right, let's take this last one from Dune Thomas. Any chance character animator might add some JavaScript APIs? I wish I could get access to the puppet property values to assist in some of my animation automation scripts. this is another one of those things that we've wanted for a while. Behaviors in the app are if I'm correct, Dan, they're just JavaScript. Is that right? I think so.
The behaviors are all JavaScript, and then the actual application has like some Lua scripting ability, which is kind of what he's talking about, where if you want to say like, I want to put a handle here, I want that. Yeah, After Effects was so successful with allowing end users to be able to script it, and that was always our goal. And it's just been really hard to get the API out to you guys.
But it's a great point. I think that's another one of those things we would love to do, right? Because we only have such limited time that we can work on these new behaviors. But if we open that up to the community, you can just imagine, like, here's the snake slithering behavior. Like, someone could come up with that. Or here is this behavior that's going to save you a ton of time for this, automatic camera changes or something like that. You could just imagine these really cool things that are added in the future. So I think that's always been in our mind of one of the long-term goals of Character Animator, but again, nothing to announce today. So yeah, that's it for this stream. I'm so sorry for the connection issues, the internet stuff. That's how it goes, unfortunately. When I edit this back together, hopefully I'll try to edit through some of those messy points. But all those who were with us and suffered with us live through a phone connection and drop connection for 5 minutes there or whatever it was, I appreciate it. And yeah, Dan, if people want to keep up with you, how do they follow your stuff? I know you said you're on Twitter, but you're not really active there. Yeah.
Yeah, I should like check my email. Yeah, so I think, I think The Nice Nelly is the name of the Twitter handle, and I'll start checking Twitter.
That's what I've got under your name right now, so I believe that's correct. Yeah,
that works.
Yeah, and I'm at OK Samurai, and obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know from that as well. So thanks again for having us. We will probably do something. Adobe Max is coming up next month. Actually, I should say, Dan and I are both going to be at Adobe Max in person. So please, if you're going to be there, we'd love to see you. There will be a Character Animator session that you can go to live on that Wednesday, I believe. And then Dan and I will be at the Adobe Video booth on the main floor. So if you ever want to come say hi to us, one of those two places is probably the best place to find us. And, we'd love meeting y'all and saying hi. And yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah, that is it for today. Dan, as always, thanks for joining me today. And we'll try to do another one of these after Adobe Max sometime. And we'll see you then. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
For having me, Dave.
All right. See ya.